What's going on? College Football Outsider back again with another one. Just talking about some changes Sark has got to make going into the 2022 season. If Texas is going to go from 5-7 to let's just call it respectable, whatever that respectable may be. I think anyone can agree that these are some changes Texas must make. I want to give you a little bit of a new perspective. So the statistics and stats I'm going to be drawing from, they come from a website I'll link below called bcftoys.com. Sounds very suspect. It's the guys, whoever is in charge of it. His last name's Frambeau, I think. He is, anyway, his initials and toys. I guess that's like his toys or the stats. I don't freaking know. Anyway, but it basically cuts all the fat from the game. So say, my team's playing your team. I've got, at the end of the third quarter, you're ahead 77-0. I keep my first stringers in. Maybe I'm an FCS team. I want them to get, some good experience against clearly much better competition. And then your team is playing, third, fourth, let's say fourth stringers, walk-ons, freshmen, and so it goes from 77-0 to 77-28. My team scores 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It doesn't have any effect on the game, but I've got an extra 350 yards. So if you just look at the box score and you look at total offense and defense, your team is going to look a lot worse in that game, even though I'm really getting 350 yards and 28 meaningless points. It's all meaningless. It has no tangible effect on the game. I'm not even playing anyone that I want to risk even getting hurt. So he has the FEI, Flambeau, whatever his name is, efficiency indicator. So I'm going to be using stats on that. Basically just cuts all the fat out of the game. Anytime the game's over, he just quits using the stats at that point. So, in 2021, Texas's overall FEI was 33rd. Net, so that's when you take the offense and you compare it to the defense, subtract it. You were 35th offensively, 52nd defensively. Well, how the hell do you go 5-7? Two things. You played a tough schedule, and the defense was pretty bad. Overall, Texas's schedule in 2021 against if they played an elite team played their schedule 2 standard deviations above an average team. They would lose on average 1.12 games. 31st strongest schedule. And then a good team, 1 standard deviation above, would lose 4.10 games. That's 21st. And then an average team, so just an average team, 65th across the board out of the 130 teams, they would lose 7.69 games. So they would not make a bowl. They would lose between 7 and 8 games. They'd be going 5-7, 4-8. So, tough schedule. Big 12 is a pretty tough conference, especially with Texas and Oklahoma. So like that, I said, and the defense. So every single stat I give you henceforth, based on FEI, that, it cuts the fat. Also, it's not Texas's performance against their opponents that year. It's a statistical model, like how Texas would perform against the most average team. Everything is just average across the board at a neutral site. It's a predictive, whatever it is. It's predictive. I don't really care. Anyway, so your average net points per drive was not good. It was 59th out of 130 teams. Texas was getting on average 0.19 points per drive. The reason why: your offense very good, 25th, but your defense was horrible, 95th. So your offense was scoring points, but your defense was also giving up tons of points. And then whenever you factor that in with the fact that this is against, all these stats are against an average team. You're playing on average a much better than average team, or better than average team, a good team. It's not going to go well. So your offense was inconsistent. Everyone's making all sorts of bones about, hey, we got Quinn Ewers. The offense is going to be so much better. Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy, the offensive line hopefully improves. So we really need, we need Quinn Ewers. We need an elite quarterback who's going to go out there and score points. Well, that's great. Obviously, it doesn't matter if he's not on the field. Texas's defense was not good. So, but the reason why maybe the offense was inconsistent was because the defense was so bad. Putting all sorts of extra pressure on your offense to go out and score a touchdown or at least move the ball and get a field goal every drive, it's not good, especially if you're starting two young quarterbacks in Hudson Card and Skylar Thompson? The Thompson guy, whoever, the guy who went to Nebraska. So, Texas's offense, though, abysmal with the short field for your available yards gained. So if you take like the amount of yards that are possible to gain, if you take a short field, 20 yards or fewer, Texas was really, really, really bad in that metric. It was actually those points. Hold on. Sorry, there's so many stats. 120th out of 130. Nearly bottom 10. Awful. And also, when you had a short field of 40 yards, between 40 and 60 yards, you were 102nd out of 130 teams. And then with a long field, starting inside your 20, at or inside your 20, 83rd. So, not very consistent there. Every defensive metric, you were really bad as well. So if you take if you take a drive, and you determine how likely it is to average 4 yards or more per play against an average defense, Texas was below average, 69th out of 130 teams. However, they were average when it comes to if drives averaging 7 or more yards a play, 48th. That's 31% of your drives overall. Nearly a third. And then drives, very, very explosive drives that are averaging 10 or more yards a play, probably like a long touchdown drive. You were 38th. 58th, 15%. So still pretty good. Like it was an average, but you had an explosive offense. The problem was defensively in every metric that I just mentioned, but on the defensive side, you were 91st or worse. So horrible. Your offense would gain 6.19 yards a play versus an average defense. However, your defense is going to surrender, according to FEI, an average of 6.18 yards a play to an average offense. So you're playing a hard schedule, a harder than average schedule. So that's why in 2021 Texas was really unsuccessful. On the defensive side, the chances that the offense averaged 4 or more yards a play, basically a sustained drive that's going to end in points, 56%. Chances that the offense is going to have 7 or more yards per play on a drive, 32%, so actually higher than Texas's offense, again. And then the chances of Texas's defense surrendering more than 10 yards a play on defense against an average offense, 17% according to this model. So your defense is actually worse, and this is you're basically giving off an explosive play on 1/3 of drives against an average offense. It's just not good. So that's why I don't think that 2021 worked in Texas's favor. In order to turn things around, Sark is really, really going to need to fix this problem. Texas's defense was not good. They gave up tons of big plays, more big plays than their offense gained. However, just fixing the offense, just installing a better quarterback, and then having key pieces come back, the defense isn't fixed, and you're retaining like 74% of your production from last year. So the guys who are coming in, you might have some slightly better guys coming in, but the guys who played and have experience, they weren't good. So that needs to be fixed. Whatever Pete Kwiatkowski's doing, however you say his name, this is a make or break year for him, in my opinion. Last year was not good. So I don't know how you improve, how you get to To win like 10 games, Texas probably needs to have like a top 50 defense if their offense improves. So, um, will that happen? I don't know. I'm not super confident. Not to say that I'm not a believer in Pete Kwiatkowski. Maybe he had a 2-year plan, but I just don't think this is looking good for him.